Bless Squad, what's going on with y'all, man? It's your boy, Blessed Applesauce, here to bless y'all with another video here on Blessed to Invest. And today I want to talk about credit cards. Credit cards are very important in today's society, especially in America, because we use credit cards for everything. We take out loans for cars, we take out loans for houses, we take out loans for everyday grocery shopping and everything, really, everything we use credit cards for. And today I want to talk about the most common credit card mistakes that you are probably making that you need to change ASAP if you want to turn your credit around. So before we get into a video, the first mistake you're probably making is you're not hitting the like button. So make sure you do that. Spam the like button down below and also sub for more content like this, because we talk about finance, credit cards, stock market, investing. So if you need something like that for a channel, this is where you go. All right, so let's get into it. The first credit card mistake that you are making is you are probably only using the minimum payment. It's going to hit you with the $25 every month or the $15 every month. Or if you have a really big credit card limit and you have a lot on your card, maybe it's $50 a month. And that is the first mistake. Paying off the minimum balance, the minimum payment every month is going to take a very long time to pay the card off. A lot of times in these credit card statements, they're going to say, okay, you can pay the minimum balance. It's going to be in small print. You can pay the minimum balance, but we do recommend if you want to pay it off faster, pay a little bit more than that. And you should really heed their warning, because if you don't, you're going to be paying interest for years upon years. And honestly, the card is not going to get down in a good period of time. So let's say you spend $1,000 on a TV, or you bought an iPhone, you bought the new iPhone 14, and you spend $1,000 on that. If you pay the minimum balance, you may actually end up paying, based on your interest rate, you may end up paying twice as much for the cell phone or twice as much for the electronic that you purchase. And that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to save money here. We don't want to be paying $2,000 for a $1,000 item. We want to save up a little bit, save our money, and then put it down. If we have to use cash, that's fine. But if we are going to use our card, make sure we use the card and then pay off more than the minimum balance, because it's going to take too long to do that. So that's the first mistake there. Make sure y'all don't just pay the minimum balance. Next thing is carrying a balance. A lot of people have this misconception that keeping a balance on your card helps your credit score. I want to let y'all know now, it does not. You do not want to keep a balance on your credit score. It does report to all the bureaus if you're paying on time, if your utilization is down. And keeping a balance on your card is not something that benefits your score. That actually hurts your score. You want to keep your balance as low as possible. There's always been this big debate of 1% or 0%. Keep it at 0%. The goal of credit cards is not to be paying interest. You don't want to be paying these credit card companies money. They're to benefit you. You're supposed to be getting a credit score, a positive credit score that can help you get a lower interest when you need to borrow money. On top of that, and you want to take advantage of the points that these cards give you. So do not be paying interest. Do not leave a balance. Pay it off in full. That is a big misconception that a lot of people have. Pay it off. Don't leave a balance. And the thing that is really interesting to me, I hear a handful of people do this. This is number 3, cash advances. This has to be the most dangerous type of credit card practice that I have ever seen. Cash advances, balance transfers, these are so dangerous. The reason why: one, you're taking out a loan. They're going to give you cash. And then on top of that, when you take this cash out from your credit card, you're going to be paying 3%, 5%, maybe even more for that, give or take, based on the credit card. And you're going to be paying interest every time, the longer you keep that cash available. So let's say you take out, let's say you have a $5,000 credit limit, and then the cash advance total is $2,000. You can take $2,000 out. Let's say you take the whole $2,000 out. They're going to charge you 5% for the cash that you took out. And then they're going to continue to charge you the 5% the longer that you keep the cash out. The best thing to do, one, is either just to use the credit card and take out $2,000 if you can. Two, you can really get the money borrowed somewhere else. The cash advance is so expensive long term that I just do not recommend it. I avoid it. by all means. There's no point. You're going to be charged as soon as you take it out. You're going to be charged during the process. It is the worst way to take money out. So I don't recommend anybody using cash advance to save up the money. Or we live in a world now where a lot of the stuff is on credit where you don't need cash. So just put it on your credit card. And if you really have to, just pay it off over time. It's going to be a lot cheaper doing it that way. Next thing is a big mistake is closing out your older credit cards. This is a issue I had when I first got into the credit game. I had a old Macy's card that I ended up closing out because I didn't use it. It wasn't a card. I didn't like going to Macy's like that, but I had the card open and it was one of my oldest cards that I ever had. It was like 2 or 3 years older than my next oldest card because I got it when I was just 18. And this was a big mistake because once you close out that credit card that has a lot of old history on it, it ends up affecting your entire credit score. So with credit, one of the things they look at is how long you've had a credit history available. And if you have a couple of cards that have a very old credit history, that is going to take up the bulk of your credit score. So you want to keep those cards open, even if you don't use them. Maybe you have to cut them up, put them away. Just make sure you keep the account active and don't close them up because they allow your credit score to stay high because they show that you've been in the credit game for a long period of time. So don't close any of your cards, even if you don't use them anymore, even if they have zero balance on them, even if they threaten to lower your credit limit on these specific cards. Make sure you do not close these cards. It's going to affect your credit score, and you don't want your score dropping 50, 100 points just because you closed out some of your oldest and most important credit history, because that's literally what you're doing. All you're doing is deleting some of your credit history. You need that credit history to get lower interest rates and to raise your credit score. So don't do that. Next is you want to look at the interest rate. I talked about this slightly, but making sure you're checking out your APR, your interest rate, and you know exactly how much you're going to be charged for interest. I don't recommend carrying a balance, but sometimes I understand things happen where you may have to carry a balance for an extra month or something like that. But understand, look at your statement and understand before you even get the card, figure out how much they're going to charge you for interest. If it's too high, try to compete it. Look for other cards that are out there that can give you a little lower score. And then try to keep it as low as possible and to pay it off as quickly as possible. All it is about being educated and understanding, okay, I don't want to be paying a whole bunch of money that I don't have to if I can just get a cheaper card or I can just wait a little bit and pay for it in cash. So don't do that. All right. So the next mistake I see a lot is maxing out your credit card. This literally blows me. Why would you max out your credit card? If you have $10,000 available, do not take it to $10,000 and say, okay, I maxed it out. A lot of people think of a credit card as just straight up money, straight cash that is given to you. No, this is not cash. This is not money. You do have to pay this off at the end of the month, the end of the quarter, or whatever card that you may have. If you have a zero interest card or something like that, this is money you do have to pay back. So maxing out your card, having this idea that, okay, it's available to me, doesn't mean you should go out and spend it. You need to be responsible and not max out your credit cards. And this is where you get into a lot of trouble. This is where people get into a lot of debt. And this is where we have the Dave Ramseys of the world saying, cut up your credit cards, be responsible, and have to get people out of debt because they're choosing to be irresponsible up front. They're being impatient. A lot of times they're buying things they don't need. They're buying the new iPhone. Why do you need the new iPhone 14? Your iPhone 13 is just fine. We saw the differences between the two. They're exactly the same. Everybody knows you don't need the little dynamic island. We don't need that. You're okay with your 13. You don't need the always on display. You will be okay with your iPhone 13. Save the money. Don't go out and buy things you don't need on your card. And then you won't get into credit card debt where you're struggling to pay bills and now you're locked into this system where you're only able to make the minimum payment. So this is all about being smart initially before you swipe your card. Before you even think about going to the store, think, okay, how can I afford this? Am I able to afford this? How can I be more responsible? And is it possible for me to pay this in cash up front so I don't have to worry about paying interest on it? And last but not least, this brings me to the next point, is just being more educated on credit, being more educated on managing money. That is going to be the number one thing that people run into when they have issues with credit cards. That's the biggest mistake. If you are not able to budget your money, the credit card is not going to be the issue. Budgeting your money comes first before ever using a credit card. Me personally, I like using my credit cards for points. I get my cash back rewards. I know y'all saw the trip that I just went on that was paid for with credit card points, the flight, the hotel, and stuff like that. That's why I personally like using a credit card. But if you're not responsible enough to pay it off on time and don't pay interest, it doesn't make sense to use the benefits of that card. So that's the one thing that people make mistakes on. Be responsible, make a budget, stick to that budget. And then if you want to use your credit card to get points, just learn how to be responsible with that and know that you need to pay this off at the end of the month. So if you have $100 bill, put it on a credit card, immediately pay it off at the end of the month, and then receive the points, the extra $5, $10 or whatever that points wise that you may get for that particular purchase. And that becomes a win-win for you, and you're not paying that in interest, and you're not allowing the credit card company to take advantage of you. So keep those tips in mind. That's how you're going to succeed in this credit card game. Avoid these mistakes and you're going to be all good. And that's going to wrap it up for the video. If you have any other mistakes that you have made or any others that I missed, let me know down in the comment section down below and we can chop it up. But that's going to wrap it up. It's been your boy. Blessed Applesauce. Stay blessed. I'm going to see y'all next time on Blessed to Invest.
Just to see tomorrow is a blessing. Stay prayed up is the message. Everything about a nigga blessed. Everything about a nigga blessed.